Animation, as I understood it when I first started, is not the way I understand it today. I thought it was about moving drawings. It's about moving people. It's about touching people through living in the skin of the characters that you animate. I'll never forget with my granddaughter. She was maybe 2 years old or even less. And she was listening to a song. And when she heard the song, it played a minor chord. And she turned around and looked at me, and with tears in her eyes just came over and hugged me. And she didn't know why, but it was the music that just hit her. And I've never forgotten that, because that's exactly how I feel with music. That it takes me, like on Little Mermaid, I was supposed to do Ursula. And I'd been doing big characters and villains. And I went to the recording session, and I heard Jodie Benson singing Part of Your World, and Howard Ashman coming in and asking, turn the lights down, and telling her, no, this is just you, and you're very quiet. This is an intimate moment. Every breath we hear. This is not like you singing for the back of the theater. It's intimate, and it's quiet, and he was getting quiet. You couldn't even hear him anymore talking. And as I'm watching that, listening to her sing, I'm thinking, I have to animate this. I have to animate this girl singing, because she believes that she can somehow live in that world. And believing the impossible is possible was being communicated through that music, through that desire, and animating her. There's a moment in that song where Ariel is beginning to swim to the surface. I mean, I'd storyboarded it, and so I planned that. But when I was actually animating, I'm 33 years old. I am a 16-year-old mermaid. And I'm being that. I was going to play football for Arizona State, but now I'm an animator, 16-year-old mermaid girl, and suddenly I'm getting embarrassed about this, because she's like reaching out, wanting to be part of that world, and then she sinks back down. And I was like, I can't do this. Everybody's going to know just how sappy I am. But I couldn't stop her. Ariel did it. And years later, I was speaking at Cal Arts, the animation school, and one of the students came up to me and said, Mr. Keane, there's this moment in Little Mermaid, I don't know if you remember it, but where Ariel is reaching out. And I said, oh, yeah, no, I remember that. Yeah, well, I was 4 years old in the movie theater. And when she was singing that, I stood up in the middle of the movie and reached my hands out to take her hand, because she wanted to be part of my world. I was like, I could kiss you, thank you. I mean, music touches people. It goes in the back door and touches you in a way that no story point could reach that deep and surprise you. So this is my desire to really allow music to move me in my animation. The project I'm working on now is very much that. I don't think I was a great student in high school. The one class that I did well in, besides my French class, because there was a girl sitting in front of me that I wanted to stay in that class. But the one subject I did well in was physics, because physics was about momentum and weight. I didn't know why that meant so much to me. And I did a physics project on the long jump, And I was a long jumper in track, and the faster you could go, the momentum you had, but you would have to leap higher, and that would make you go further. And I just had it all figured out in my head. These real physical, the energy that is required there. I knew it. I mean, I had no idea I was going to become an animator. And football was something that I absolutely loved, the force of running with the football. I was a halfback and I was fast. And so Arizona State was asking me to go there. But I had seen this brochure for Cal Arts, and it was like, football I love, but I can't not draw. I have to do that. And I didn't realize that actually going towards animation was going to give me a much longer career in sports than I ever could have had. At playing football. Actually, I think I probably had more injuries than any animator at Disney. They had a long list of me going to the nurse, and I mean, I was constantly getting injured because playing volleyball, or we were being very physical. It was a very physical group of us at work, and I continued to run track in my days there. But if you don't feel the energy, the force, the desire in a character, feel it in your muscles. Like, I remember animating the Beast, and when he's screaming at Belle, "Go ahead and starve!" It's just, so I'm feeling that. And I remember going home and telling Linda, my wife, I think I've got a problem with my jaw. I think I should go to the doctor. They've got some kind of a thing where people's jaws hurt a lot, and I don't know what the problem is. And she said, "Well, what have you been doing all day?" "Well, I'm animating the Beast." She's like, "Well, there it is. That's what you're doing." Tarzan was so cool because he brought both of those together in such a clear way. We had moved to France, and I can't say why I moved to France. I felt called to come here. It was a place of sculptures and the artists that had this rhythmic flow. There was movement in their sculptures and the drawings of François Boucher and Fragonard. They were like the Disneys for the kings in those days. And Rodin, his sculptures, they had such massive strength and power. I wanted to be there. So I came home one day and said, "Linda, what do you think if we moved to France?" "Sure." We just finished building our house. But she's like, "Yeah." So this is why I love her. I mean, we knew each other for 8 days. We've been married now. This next year will be 50 years. So we moved, and our son hated the idea of coming. Max was 14 years old. The night before we left, he said, "So, Dad, what would you do if, like, tomorrow when the car comes to pick us up, take us to the airport, I'm not here?" I said, "Well, Max, we'd tell the car to leave, we'd find you, and then we'd bring you there." "Oh, okay." So he came and refused to accept the fact that he was not in California with his skateboard. He brought a skateboard and spent every day at the Trocadero, going down the railings and coming home with bloody knees, and he's watching these extreme sports video. And I'm wondering, why are you doing this to yourself? This is painful. And at the same time, I am now working in Montreuil on Tarzan. And the first animation was the formula Tarzan swinging on a vine, the way I'd seen it on TV. It's like, this is totally passive. This is boring. I will fall asleep if I animate this. And then I read Edgar Rice's description of Tarzan. I was like, oh, why didn't they do this the way he's describing it? Tarzan leaping from one tree to the other, even though the branches are moving like in a hurricane he describes. And I thought, oh, Tarzan, he's not at all the way we've seen him. And how am I going to make him feel that way? How's he going to move through the jungle? And so Max came home and he'd been sliding down those railings, and it's just like the two ideas. What if Tarzan is a tree surfer? What if he's surfing down the moss in the jungles? And so Max and I went to the jungles, visited the gorillas and the moss and all of that. And Tarzan could grab the vines with his toes, and everything was just like, this is so cool. He's an extreme sports guy. He loves the adrenaline. For him, it's even more. It's about survival in the jungle. Yeah, sports and animation, they really go together. They really go together. I've heard from a lot of people, they'll say, oh man, how can you do that? 24 drawings per second? That's crazy. You must get so bored. Or I could never do that. I could never do that, they say. And I say, well, I don't think of it that way. I don't think of it 24 drawings per second. I think of it like a songwriter thinks of a melody. And the melody may have, hundreds and hundreds of notes as they're going along. But they don't think of it note by note. They think of it with this rhythm and a melody, and there's emotion to it, and they're carried along by that. And that's exactly how I'm animating it. I'm not counting the drawings. I'm just feeling the emotion, the purpose, the intent of what I'm animating.